Welcome to the University of South Carolina College of Pharmacy podcast. I'm your host, Margaret Gregory, and today our guest is Cheryl Anderson. Cheryl is the Director of Pharmacy Services for the South Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and she serves as President of the South Carolina Pharmacy Association. Cheryl earned her Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy in 1981 from the College of Pharmacy, and since then her career's taken her down many paths. Cheryl, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Margaret. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Let's talk a little bit first about how pharmacy became a passion for you.
Well, thinking back, it's a exciting story for me. My grandmother was a nurse, and I wanted to become a nurse. So when I went for registration, my first day at Carolina, I was down at the Coliseum, and I was looking for the nursing booth to sign up for classes. I guess I was stumbling around, and I came upon the pharmacy desk where the dean was there. And he said, "Can I help you? You look like you're looking for something in healthcare." And I was, because he had overheard me asking where to go to sign up for my nursing classes. And he said, "Well, come over here and let me tell you about our wonderful pharmacy school." That sealed the deal. I stayed right there with him and signed up and started classes that August.
Talk a little bit about your experience here when you were a student.
Oh, Margaret, they were exciting. Came into a class that was quite small, and we had an opportunity to mentor with our professors, and I was actually able to do an internship under two of my professors while I was going to school. That was very exciting. It was also a very good experience for me because I did come from a smaller high school in the Columbia area, and coming to the College of Pharmacy, it was like not missing a beat because I was treated as an individual and I was welcomed with warmth, and I always had the ability to go and get the counseling I needed and actually be able to be embraced by the professors there, because they wanted us to succeed.
You've done so many different things throughout your career. Talk a little bit about where you started and where you are now.
And I love talking about my career, and that's one of my favorite things to do every year is to come to the university and speak at career days. I started my career, it was back in 81 upon graduation, and back then you were either a community independent pharmacist or you were either a hospital pharmacist. And I went right down the street from the university and started my career at Hawthorne Pharmacy. From there, I had actually met my husband-to-be during one of my final rotations at the VA hospital here in Columbia, and he was graduating from his residency and was gifted a family practice in town. So it was with the support of my two pharmacists at Hawthorne Pharmacy that I left there to go over and join the practice that my husband and I ran together. Back in those days, pharmacists weren't embedded into medical practices. I was really a pioneer, and especially for a woman back then. It was interesting. I wasn't always just the pharmacist. I was a professional coder. I became a phlebotomist. I became a certified EKG tech. Back then, that was really unheard of. So I felt like that was a way to really pioneer and forge the way for us in the clinical careers that are out there today in office settings. Then my husband passed away, and I sold the practice. And then it was, oh my, what am I going to do next? One of my pharmacist girlfriends took me on a trip to Tennessee for the mountains for the weekend, and I was reading the pharmacy journal, the SCPHA Pharmacy Journal. And in that was an advertisement for the administrator for the South Carolina Board of Pharmacy. I looked at it and I said, why not me? So I put in an application, went through the process, and I became the first female administrator for the South Carolina Board of Pharmacy. And I stayed there at that career until the time in which I had gotten remarried and became pregnant. Then it was time to start the second phase of a family. I did go home to be a mom. However, with a miscarriage, my professional career and personal career sort of took another turn. It was then time to go back to work, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Well, my phone rang. It was one of my pharmacist girlfriends, and she goes, I've had a call from the Director of Health and Human Services to be able to come over and ask if she would start a pharmacy and durable medical equipment fraud unit over at South Carolina Medicaid. Well, she had just found out that the governor had appointed her as director of LRADAC in Columbia. So she reached back out to the Director of Health and Human Services and said, I have a girlfriend that would be great to run this new project for your agency. With that phone call, another one came, and I went and I did get that job. I stayed there noting that I wanted to stay in regulatory and go over to the Bureau of Drug Control. And I knew that the prescription monitoring program was in the process of going through its legislative phase for South Carolina. And so with the blessing of my agency director and with a lot of peer support, I went over to Drug Control and started the South Carolina prescription monitoring program. From there is when I retired. And then my phone rang again, and it was the CEO of the Pharmacy Association and said, I have a lady that has a federal contract in South Carolina for quality improvement, and she needs a pharmacist that knows pharmacists around our state and can network with those pharmacists. She called me, and that job I took for 8 years. I'd still be there today. However, my previous director at Health and Human Services needed a pharmacy director, and my phone rang again. Over to Health and Human Services I went, and there is where I am today. So I've been very blessed to have a great career, Margaret.
That phone ringing gets you every time.
It does.
One of the things that you mentioned in your previous comment, especially in knowing pharmacists around the state, networking is such a key component in the success of so many of our pharmacists, and knowing other pharmacists in their roles and what they're doing. And one of the things that you also mentioned was that you support our Career Expo every year. What about the Career Expo is it that excites you in working with these students and sharing your experiences?
When an email comes across or my phone rings and USC School of Pharmacy comes up, I know it is Career Expo time. And I love giving back to my school in that way. I so enjoy meeting with the students because they're inquisitive. We have over 30 different ways today that we can practice pharmacy, and I have had a wealth of career opportunities that I can share with them. My favorite story, Margaret, is being at a Career Expo when 9 other national alumni came together for the School of Pharmacy, and it was very interesting. One of the ladies in the audience was a peer pharmacist of mine, and she got up and she said that she took the career path she did, and it was because of someone in the room, and that someone was me. What I want to share with my peers is that we do make a difference with the people we touch in pharmacy, whether it's students, it's other alumni, and this is the most exciting thing for me is to be able to engage the students in all the different ways they can practice pharmacy. I'm currently a mentor for a mentee at the College of Pharmacy, and I have been thrilled this year with our engagement together. I've been able to bring her over to South Carolina Medicaid, and we've spent numerous hours on different initiatives, and from this is actually going to change the trajectory she's going to take on her professional career. So I would love for all alumni to stay active and be active in career opportunities and expos.
One of the other things that you are actively engaged in, you mentioned regulatory work. You're having an impact through legislative work, serving as president of the South Carolina Pharmacy Association. Talk about why that's important for pharmacists to be active within their state and their national organizations.
Great question, Margaret. Pharmacists need to be active in their state, in their region, and national associations. This is a true way to be able to change our profession, make policy changes, be active in advocacy. This is what makes pharmacy such an important topic today because we have the expansion of scope. In the last 6 months, pharmacists have been recognized to be able to assess patients for birth control. We are now being recognized by South Carolina Medicaid as renders of medical services. Never before has a payer recognized us in South Carolina as a medical provider. I just can't say enough about the networking that goes on. Committees are an important part of associations. I really would like to ask people to ask, what kind of committees do you have in the associations you belong in? Because there is a role you can play in that, whether it's an administrative role, in policy, in the educational committee that these associations have. There are many different roles, and it's through the networking. As you can tell, my phone rang because of networking.
What advice do you have for students as they're trying to determine what career path they want to pursue? What is it that they need to think about when considering that?
I think they need to stay open-minded. And when I talked about my mentee earlier, because she's open-minded, she never thought that she would want to come and play a role like I do at South Carolina Medicaid, where policy is the driver of the job and the administration of the program. I think pharmacists need to be very open-minded because there's so many different ways that we can practice now, whether it's in a physician's office, whether we have boutique practices that we engage our expertise in. We can partner and open a medical practice just like my husband and I did back in the late 80s.
When you think about what we've talked about in sharing networking opportunities, supporting students as mentors, what other advice would you have for our alumni and how they can support the College of Pharmacy?
Well, Margaret, that's an excellent thing, and I think about this all the time because as we get updates from our college, we read about what's going on in the college. I want to remind everyone it's not about donations that you give to the school. It's that in-kind give back to your school, whether it's time, whether you are a mentor. I don't want people to be discouraged to think the only way to give back is through a financial support of your college. Absolutely, I encourage financial support, but I also encourage the ability to give your time and invite students over. For me, it is a bonus for me as much as I find it is for the student. So I think it is something that we should do. We should never forget and not look towards our school. Our school is giving forward, and we need to continue as alumni to give forward.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And thank you for everything that you do to support not only our students, but also the staff and faculty here at the college. It's nice to know that our alumni are willing to go that extra mile and for all of the experience that you share with our team. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Margaret. I enjoyed being here today with you.